Hi everybody, welcome to my channel and Happy New Year. With the new year comes Pantone's color of the year for 2023. And this year it's Viva Magenta. And I'm going to create using this beautiful color. So the first thing I did is I got out my colors. This is quinacridone magenta. And I mixed a little bit of black with it and a little bit of orange to get the right shade of magenta as close as possible to what I printed off the Pantone site. If you don't want to mix it, if you got a magenta that's close, use it. Now let's look at the color wheel. So the magenta is over here. This one is kind of a mid-tone. It's between pink and orange. Across from it, you see the bright greens and then the teals, which we are going to use. I'm not going to go with the lime green route, but these are colors that would work well with magenta. Also, you can use an analogous color scheme, colors that are close to that color on the color wheel. That might be interesting for another day. So today, to jumpstart my page, I am using this paper. This I created when I created my latest masterboard. And when it was in the black and white state like you see here, I went and photocopied it thinking, oh, I can just change up the colors and it will be like new. And let me tell you, I will totally be doing this again. This was absolutely so easy. I've got these black and white images on here. So I've had the mess once. I'm just gluing this down onto my 7x10 Canson Mixed Media page with fluid matte medium. Once it's dry, I am going to give it a coat of clear gesso. And the reason for the clear gesso is I plan on removing paint through a stencil. And to get that technique to work best, you want a non-porous surface so you can lift the acrylic paint off. And because I don't want to cover up what's there with white gesso, I'm using clear gesso. So once that's dry, it's time to put the paint on. So I'm just going to mix the paint, quinacridone magenta, some orange, and a little bit of black right as I'm mixing it and going on the page. This is going to give me some variations in tone for the magenta color. If I want it deeper, I can come back and add more. I've also put some white gesso out because that will lighten it. I want variation on there, and these colors are fairly translucent, so you can see how all that black yumminess from my masterboard can be seen. There, I've deepened the color a little bit, mixed it, pre-mixed it. So you can see we've got some that are a little more purpley, some that are a little bit more on the orange side. And I'm comparing it to what I've printed out. My goal here is just to get a base color of Viva Magenta. Definitely creating with magenta is going to be easy for me. This is totally a color that I would use. This is something I would totally wear. These are colors that I would wear or even have it in my home decor. So this is the Knitted Stitch stencil, and I'm grabbing a baby wipe and I'm just going to rub and remove the paint through the stencil. That's giving me some white and adding texture and pattern to my background. Loving that. Now I have extra paint on my page, so I'm going to put this into my accidental art journal. This is a page that I put some napkin on. Not really fond of it. So I'm just going to put paint all over it. That's going to cover it up. That's what the accidental art journal is for. Now, a magical thing's happening here. Do you see where the napkin was? It's taking paint differently than the white spaces. And you're getting all these different tones of magenta, and I love that. How easy is that? I'm going to totally do this on purpose. So if you've got napkin, whether it has pattern on it or not, you can do that. I'm going to finish that page in an upcoming video, but let's get back to this one. I'm edging this with black. Mainly I'm doing that now because I have the black on my palette because I had the paint there. Then I'm just shading across the top. I'm loving the background as it is, and I'm contemplating not adding any other colors at this time. But my original plan was to add turquoise. I love how turquoise and magenta play off each other. And I'm using this Pantone'S stamp, dot stamp, a real workhorse in my art journal supplies. I use this a lot. And I'm just adding a small scale circular pattern, dot pattern to my background. And that's pretty much going to be it for this background. How easy, especially using that black and white photocopy from a masterboard. Loving that. So I went through my stash and I got this girl from my magazine clippings. I chose her because she's wearing black and it looked good against the background. Then I have these flower printables and I printed them out in various sizes and I'm cutting them out. I was just going to put them as flowers. Then I get the idea to cut them in half and maybe make a border with them. I've never done that before either, and I'm liking the look of it. The white with the black is playing well against the magenta based background and the black of the girl's dress. So I think I'm going to put it just in a couple places, not the entire border. So I cut out a few more off camera and then I am simply gluing them down to make a border of sorts, but with a little bit of flair. And inadvertently I grabbed some black paint there. I know this has happened to everybody. So I had to clean up the mess and then continue on my way. I like how the flowers that I'm adding there kind of correspond to some of the stenciling that was on that masterboard. You can see it behind her head and in front of her. And right over there, there's even more of it. It's a similar kind of motif. I was going to put that other white flower there and another one underneath her head, and then I decide once I audition it, I really didn't like the white behind her head. I like the color better, so off it comes. And then I'm using gel medium to glue down the magazine. Now you can see how glossy that magazine is. I think it's from the cover. So it's a little thicker and definitely glossier. So I'm going to put a coat of the gel medium on top, and that's going to really knock back the shininess. You can come back and see the shininess now to once this is completely dry. It really does make it matte. So now I am grabbing a sentiment from my Word of the Year sentiment pack, which my word of the year was courage, and I will link that video. And it says, life begins at the end of your comfort zone. I like it a little bit lower down, and I like the bold font. And again, we've got that black and white going. So really the main colors, we have magenta, black, white, with that little bit of turquoise. That looked a little empty, so I grabbed another one of those flowers and I added it to the sentiment. This just gives the sentiment a little bit more weight. And I really like that look. It just made it balance a little bit better. So I'm taking a little bit of that turquoise and just ever so carefully making her eyes the same color as that turquoise. Now I'm using my angle brush and black acrylic paint, and I'm just adding some shading around my focal image. This makes it stand out. I'm going to go around the outside of the image here, and then I'm going to do a little bit of shading right on top of the magazine cutout. And having that coat of matte medium on top helps it not soak into the paper because you've turned it into a non-porous surface. If you left it as raw paper, it may bleed into it and discolor it. So you really want to seal your magazine clippings when you glue them down on an art journal page before you add any color. I was toying with the idea of painting her dress that turquoise color. What do you think that would have looked like? Now I'm shading around all the flowers as well. And I don't put that all in film because basically it's me doing the same thing you see me doing here on all the flowers, even including the half flowers that made up the partial border. And there is the finished page. I love the magenta color. I love that pop of turquoise and the white. So using the masterboard, using magenta, using the printables in a different way. Until next time, go get creative.